So, coming along to a couple of variations now with this, and this is the beautiful thing with your landmine, is we now can work with orientation. So how we are orientated to our anchor point and our load. It's no longer now the one way, because when you lift traditionally, you only have one way to orientate to the tool, don't you? You can't generally be deadlifting from behind you safely and effectively. Yes, you can do hack squats and stuff. There are these variations in there, but if you look at a general whole, if you start applying that to everything, you can't always do that with the ease and the versatility of what the landmine will allow. So I can orientate myself away from the anchor point or to it, which will change whether it's much more an anterior or posterior. I can again turn myself side on to it, which allows me to work more that lateral side of the body. We can also go from bilateral into split stance on things. So I'll work through a few of the variations. Okay. Also coming on that orientation part, whether I'm behind the plate or in front of the plate, is also going to be different because of where the load sits. Right, so here, working on one thing, we can have a suitcase deadlift. So the bar is off to the side. Feet are in a narrow grip, we grab hold.
Oh, that's what a suitcase
Yep, and we lift up. Yeah, it's picking up a suitcase. So hinge back, drive up. Now we can do that.
Could you do a double suitcase lift?
With these, yep, we'll set this up that you'll have 2 bars. So again, we can orientate still facing this, but now when we adjust, it changes where the load is and then how our body has to adjust to said load as well. So you've got to work a way around that. So that's one thing that it can change. Here, I'm still doing the suitcase deadlift, but now I'm orientating away from the anchor in relation to the load as well, which changes what you feel. It's much more on that anterior aspect now as opposed to posterior. And same thing again here. So just simply working on changing that, let alone being able to then have a staggered stance. So when you're going with your staggered stance, you just rest on the tips of the toes for that back leg. All the weight is on the front, still hinging the same. We're not leaning back onto that back leg. And this is where you start executing more laterally now, especially depending on how you set up. So if I go in a contralateral stance, left leg forward, right hand hanging onto it, it's now working through on the opposing shoulder and leg. Then you can go that ipsilateral, same side, and now it's working all down here for me to balance. You see I'm just resting on those back toes while my weight's still on the front. I'm not squashing that foot down. Yep. So you can play around with your stances as well. You can still do that with this, facing forward. So come in, have a go with your suitcase, changing where you're on the relation to the plate and to the anchor, and also with that staggered stance.